Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis and welcome to another episode of The Richard Lewis Show. And today, me and Sam, we are the walking wounded. My eye has gone full bong eye. It is ridiculous. We had to delay recording this for about 2 hours because it wouldn't stop streaming. It decided out of the fucking blue just to close and just projectile vomit onto my face. It was insane. It's better now, better than it was, but I still can't see out of it, so blind in one eye. And Sam's got his own problems. He's had 11 pints, hasn't he? He's fucked out of his mind.
It's been a big Mother's Day, mate. I don't know what to tell you.
You can't even speak. You can't even speak. What did you say? It's Big Mother's Day.
I said it's been a big Mother's Day, mate. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, Big Mother's Day. Do you celebrate Mother's Day? Like, go out and have a drink?
Yeah, well, my family did today. We, all took everyone out for a meal. And then me and my two uncles decided to go to town.
Right.
And just get wrecked.
Nice. All right, well, look, if it's any consolation, I think you'll pull through. I used to know a group of lads that after work, I gotta try and remember what it was called. They had a little drinking club, and it was the 10 before 10 club. The 10 before 10. So they would go out straight from work at about 5 o'clock, and you had to have 10 pints before it hit 10 o'clock. And that's how they would roll. It was the 10 before 10 club, and that's what you have 10 pints of beer. That's 2 pints every hour for 5 consecutive hours, and then you just go home to the missus or whatever you do and just pretend none of it happened. So I think if all boys like me can muddle through the 10 before 10, then I'm sure you can. You'll be fine. Just press the buttons. Well, the good news is for you, Sam, you don't need to worry too much because I'm going to start the show with something a little bit serious. It will actually require you to play a clip, but I got asked by lots of people to talk about this and just address it. And I don't want to, honestly, because I think it's risible. But when one side of the equation won't shut up about something, is continually spamming something in public and talking about it, it kind of forces your hand to speak about it as much as you wouldn't want to address something that's completely beneath you to even acknowledge as being true. But this is that, obviously Destiny is doing this thing at the moment where, for reasons that I can sort of suspect what the motivations might be, he seems to be very heavily going after people and anyone who disagrees with his particular brand of politics. He seems to be labeling them a racist or a white supremacist. Because I didn't want to dogpile onto JonTron, even though I did publicly condemn what he said, although I don't see why I should have to. But I did. I condemned what he said. I said it was stupid and ridiculous. But I will not label him as a white supremacist without actual evidence. I won't do that to somebody else. I think it's quite a serious charge. Destiny took to his stream after tweeting at me incessantly, a Twitter conversation he initiated. Basically this is what he said. This is the clip.
With a comment like that, he has to be drunk? I mean, even if you are drunk, I don't think that excuses saying some crazy shit. I think he's just really fucking mad. I talked to him about Sargon a little bit when I met with him at Vegas, so I know he's probably friends with Sargon, and he's friends with JonTron, or thinks JonTron's ultra-white nationalist views are okay. So he's probably just extra salty that I kind of have been at ends with both of them.
So there you go. So there's the charge. Apparently I'm okay with ultra-white nationalist views. Now, I don't know why he's saying this. I somebody that I've known and worked with for years, I don't understand how we could ever draw that conclusion. But just to lay it bare, and I don't think I should have to, I'll talk about why I find this charge particularly offensive and how right now in my life I am very angry that somebody would say this. So when I was a kid, as a lot of you know, I lived in a mining town. I lived in a mining community, and kind of my first exposure to kind of like the concept of multiculturalism was during the miners' strike. I was a very young boy, but during the miners' strike, all the miners that were out there and weren't getting paid, they were on a picket line. and they didn't get a lot of when you're out there all day, you didn't have a lot of money, they didn't have a lot to eat, and it was the Sikh community, and this is well documented in mining towns all across Britain. It was the Sikh community that went down to the picket lines, and for free, out of their own pockets, on their own time, they fed the miners. I remember my uncles and all my family talking in absolutely glowing terms about the Sikh culture. A little bit later in my life, it actually made me want to learn more about Sikh culture. I had a guy who was kind of like a spiritual mentor, I don't know, whatever you would call it, called Roop Singh. He took me to a Khalsa camp. I learned about transcendental meditation and everything else, that Sikh culture has that maybe my culture didn't. And it was a huge transformation in my life as a teenage boy to kind of learn about this stuff. But then, obviously, I can talk about how I've always rejected the insidious politics of racism, and that is that my own father, who was a member of a football hooligan group and the National Front, a hardened skinhead who spent most of his adult life in prison. He was a racist, and I've had nothing to do with him my entire life, pretty much predicated on that and his violence. I'm a grown man now. I could go seek him out. I'm not interested in doing that. I reject my own father as a human being for all of the things that he stands for. Now, one of the things my mother did, because my mother was a socialist, a very diehard socialist, and she hated my father's nationalist and racist views. Her best friend happened to be Indian, of Indian heritage, and she made her my godmother. And when I ran into trouble as a teenager with my own mother kicked me out of the house, and I was on the streets and I had to come out of school. It was my godmother, my Indian godmother, that took me in, and I loved her very much. She was like a second mother to me. All of our family were Indian, and again, I was exposed to Indian culture, Indian history. She looked after me when not even my own family would, but not even my own flesh and blood would. And she died at a very young age, from a curable type of cancer that really sent me off the fucking rails. Now, when I grew up and I went to Birmingham, yes, I had a job in esports, but eventually when the esports job didn't pan out, I went and I took a job with local government, and I elected to work in a department called Enterprise and Communities. And what Enterprise and Communities did was it helped people, displaced people from countries like Somalia, war-torn countries, and it helped them get a fresh start in a country that was all about immigration. My job was to help allocate the loans, help allocate the money that enabled them to do this. And I did this in a part of Birmingham called Sparkbrook. Now, anybody who knows Birmingham knows that is a heavily Islamic part of Birmingham. It's got many mosques. Certainly white Christians are very much in the minority, and I was the minority. And sometimes I ran into forms of prejudice on that basis, but it never steered me away from the fundamental good that I knew we were doing by helping these people get a fresh start in life, create their own businesses and move forward, employ their families, and have things they couldn't have in their own country. I always took an immense amount of pride that I had helped do that. And I worked in Birmingham, one of the most multicultural cities I've ever lived in. I have a mosque around the corner. All of my neighbors were Muslims. Sam's been in my house. He can testify to this. And most importantly of all, I think, why the charge of being a white supremacist is especially repellent to me right now, here at this time in my life, is I have an 11-year-old girl in my life, a friend of a friend. She's somebody I care about very much, and she's of dual heritage, and she's already heard the N-word way too much in her life. And she's getting to that age now, almost 11 years old, where she's starting to ask questions about race, and she looks up to me. She looks up to me. I'm a positive influence. It was her who made that doll of me for Christmas. She had that specially made for me because she thinks so highly of me. Now, what I'm terrified about is if she goes on the internet and she sees somebody with a following, she sees somebody who's maybe respected within the community, making the allegation that I'm a white supremacist, she's going to maybe think that I'm a liar, that I'm a fraud, that I don't care about her, like I'm like all the other people she may encounter in her life that are going to judge her on the color of her skin. And I'm not like that. I want her to flourish. I want to be a positive influence in her life. I want to give her things that maybe other people can't. And I'm terrified of her going on the internet and seeing these allegations because I used to write for Breitbart, or because I don't want to dogpile somebody for saying silly things, because I believe in freedom of speech and I believe that we should judge people on their character, not dumb things they say when they're flustered. So now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I work with people from many diverse backgrounds to make television. I think we do a great job of it. I love all of the people on my team equally. We're like a family here. Atlanta's my home. When you say stuff like that you're a white supremacist, the inference is all of these experiences throughout my life, all of the people that have mattered to me in my life that weren't white, I secretly hate them. I secretly hated them, and I didn't see them as human. And I secretly hate them now, and I don't see them as human. And I believe I'm better than them. And I don't believe they can enrich my life. So when you make that charge, that's what you're saying. And that's fucking bullshit. And that is so offensive to me, right? It really is. And I can't express enough how angry it makes me that somebody would make that charge publicly, risk hurting people in my life, risk hurting people I have to work with, cast that kind of aspersion when I've led the life I have led. And you will not find anybody that will make that charge against me that I am a racist or that I believe white people are inherently better than other people. But Destiny feels he can do it. So fuck him. I mean, seriously, he is fucking dead to me. He owes me an apology. And seriously, if he comes out with it again, I will pursue it. I will take whatever recourse is going to be available to me, because I do not see why, with the life I lead, I should have to risk having people in my life, fucking potentially see these smears on the internet, especially young people who might not understand why somebody is making them. And that's my viewpoint on it. I have always spoken out against white supremacy. I have always spoken out against racism. I've done it on this show. I've done whole segments saying that Richard Spencer is a fucking joke and an ass clown, but I don't believe he should be punched. That's my stance. That if you want to win over people who have stupid ideas, you have got to bring them into the arena of debate and beat and challenge their ideas, not beat them with sticks. That's my stance. If that makes me a racist in this day and age, I don't know where this fucking world is headed. So let's get into some funny news stories. We'll go from cock to cook. Did you see this, mate? The leftists, progressives, they don't like the fact that there are a bunch of derogatory terms that conservatives or centrists use to describe and ridicule the terminally offended, the weak-willed, everything else that the intersectional political left has become. And you've seen this. We've talked about a few articles on this show. They're trying to reclaim snowflake. They call right wingers snowflakes now. They're trying to reclaim it. I don't know why. They talk about safe spaces. There's not a conservative person that advocates for a safe space, but apparently if you don't want to hear their bullshit, you're asking for a safe space. You're just asking to not get a fucking migraine. It's not quite the same. But this was in GQ magazine. I couldn't believe this. I thought this was satire. This isn't satire. This is a real article. The case for being a cook. The case for being a cook. A stranger on the internet called you a cook. Woo! Well, that means you're not an asshole. No, it means you're a cook. It means you're a cook. And it's quite interesting, actually. Because if you go back here, they talk about the origin of the word and where it came from. And that, it says here, where was the part? Right. If you're a cook, you're in the same camp as John McCain. If you're a cook, that means you're doing something that indicates you have basic human empathy. Maybe you suggested that women should be able to make reproductive choices for themselves. Maybe you stood up for a member of the religious minority. Maybe you helped make sure a kid got a bathroom they felt comfortable in. Any one of those is the action of a man who cares about people. Yeah, but this has nothing to do with being called a cook, right? The action of a cook who also seems like he might be someone we'd have mutually satisfying sex with. And also maybe someone to marry and raise little cooks with. if interests align and things work out down the road. Let me just give you the news flash here. Jennifer Wright, who wrote this article. A cook is actually somebody that doesn't stand up for themselves, somebody that is, spineless and lets a group or an individual that kind of is going to not act in their interests and run all over them. You go out, and because you're spineless, you go out and represent them. People who stand up for things are by definition not cooks. If you stand up for what you believe in against a torrent of abuse, you're not a cuckold. And of course, it's a deviation from a term that means a husband whose wife would be out with other men, just getting fucked by other men, sometimes in front of him, and he'd just have to deal with it because he wasn't strong enough to stand up for himself and stop that. That's where the term cuckold comes from. It's a deviation from the cuckoo bird, which I believe we all know biologically, they put their eggs in another bird's nest. They can't be asked to raise their own, hatch their own eggs. So they just fucking put their eggs in another bird's nest. And the other bird does all the fucking sitting on them and hatching them. And it's like, and when it cracks out and it's a massive cuckoo compared to everything else, the cuckoo they're like, fucking hell. Well, it's my kid. It's a giant kid. And they feed it a little bit and then it grows up and it fucks off. So it's the idea of being used and adhering to an obligation that isn't ordinarily your own. That's another derivation of the word cook. None of those things sound good to me, Sam. I don't know if I want to be a cook. I'm not into it, brother. I feel like I'd rather just be a guy that just with a spine, chutzpah, whatever you want to call it. Just stand up for myself, right? Right. Didn't happen. Oh, that didn't happen. It's back. This is going to trigger some people. So you'll recall about this was in February, and I think we touched upon it in the show. There were some wild claims out there that anti-Semitism was on the rise. Anti-Semitism was on the rise. There were swastikas everywhere. Kill the Jews. All of this stuff being said publicly. And it was because of Trump. Obviously, it was because of Trump. Trump, a man who has, Jewish family. A man who has regularly gone to synagogues. A man who is, tried to just recently, double down on Americans' relations with Israel, even though with some parts of the world it's not popular. This man is actually a secret dog-whistling anti-Semite. Makes no sense. There's no evidence for it. But you've seen the frothing hysteria of people that go on TV shows and, try and accuse him of anti-Semitism. In fact, I'll give you an example of this, Sam, if you're feeling up to... let me see if I can find it. There's a video here, actually, which was on CNN. And I'll just show you this clip here for the purposes of commentary. I'll put it in Skype. Let me just, I'll just give you the timestamp where it happens. You can watch this. So this is a discussion between Stephen Goldstein, who is the director of the Anne Frank Center, went on CNN and basically said that Trump didn't condemn anti-Semitism, even though he didn't condemn it quick enough, fast enough. So you can just play this clip. This is from February.
After Trump's remarks today, you came out very forcefully. You wrote, the president's sudden acknowledgement is a Band-Aid on the cancer of anti-Semitism that has infected his own administration. His statement today is a pathetic asterisk of condescension. Make no mistake, the anti-Semitism coming out of this administration is the worst we have ever seen. That is a serious charge.
Absolutely. Erin, time and again, this president has had an opportunity to condemn anti-Semitism. He had a chance to include Jews and Holocaust remembrers. He didn't. He had a chance to speak out against the desecration of Jewish cemeteries this weekend. He didn't. He had a chance to speak out against bomb threats against JCCs, and he didn't. Today, when he was forced, obviously by some staffers, because it came several news cycles after, he finally spoke out. Is our country so lower in its expectations of what to expect from a president that we are supposed to say, congratulations, Mr. President, you recognize anti-Semitism? That's pathetic.
Kaylee, what do you say? He was asked about it directly twice in the past week. There were all these incidents. It wasn't until his daughter tweeted yesterday that he then suddenly, in a prepared speech that he read, said the words.
For those wanting to give the president a fair chance, you would have heard him condemn anti-Semitism. I have his exact quote from the first time he was asked this question. He said, "I want peace in this country. I want to stop crime and long simmering racism." That sounds like a condemnation to me. But some people on the left are using the veil of anti-Semitism and the charge of anti-Semitism to further their own political causes. It's dangerous. I agree with Alan Dershowitz fully that we should not be loosely throwing this term around. And I've got to ask you straight on, so you think the president does not like Jews and is prejudiced against Jews? You think that about the president of the United States?
You bet. And do you know why? And wow is right, Kaylee. Do you know why?
Does he hate his daughter? Does he hate his son?
You know what, Kaylee? I am tired of commentators like you from the right trotting out his daughter, trotting out his son-in-law as talking points against the president's anti-Semitism. They are Jewish, but that is not a talking point against anti-Semitism, and that is a disgrace.
Let's dissect your statement.
Have you no ethics than to invoke people's religion as a talking point?
Let's make this a dialogue.
That itself is anti-Semitic.
Let's make this a dialogue instead of a monologue. Do you think the president dislikes his daughter?
Okay.
Answer the question. Answer, because you said he doesn't like Jews and his daughter's
I'm under no obligation to answer a curveball question.
Because you can't answer the question.
Because it's a nonsensical question based on nothing.
You know, when he's asked the question, he goes off for 20 seconds about his electoral college victory. Then he mentions racism. Later on, he does say, "As for the Jewish people, I have a daughter." Does that do it for you?
Yes. Stopping crime and long simmering racism sounds like a condemnation. And Mr. Goldstein could not answer. Could not answer.
No, you can't answer the question as to why.
Let me finish.
You're right, because he talked about the electoral college.
Stephen, let me finish.
Thank you, Kaylee.
There is a flaw in your logical reasoning. You told me the first thing you said is the president dislikes Jews. The second thing you said when I asked, does he dislike his daughter? You said, I don't have to answer that question.
That's very nice.
There's a flaw
That's very
in your
nice
reasoning.
for Breitbart News, but not for CNN. You are using fake news arguments. Shame on you.
You are using
because you just didn't watch what was on there. He responded about the electoral college.
Isn't it true, though, Kaylee? I mean, putting aside just your immediate discussion here, but it is true that when someone is close to somebody, they can see them differently as they see others. They can see others as another, and they can see a person, well, you're this, but it doesn't matter. When it comes, I mean, if you look at what happens throughout history, that's certainly been true with anti-Semitism and many other things.
Well, he stood next to the Prime Minister of Israel, who said, I've known this man my whole life, essentially, Donald Trump, and he is the greatest defender of the Jewish people I know. And I think it's very sad that we have liberal commentators, Steve in particular, who is using charges, vile charges, like anti-Semitism and racism, with no evidence behind it.
Kaylee's right. The Prime Minister of Israel did say that.
He
did say that.
Hey, but listen to what Donald Trump said.
He is a conservative Jewish leader of Israel.
Donald Trump said next to the Prime Minister of Israel. He talked about the Electoral College. We're talking about Donald Trump. We're not talking about Bibi Netanyahu here. When Donald Trump had an opportunity to speak out strongly against anti-Semitism, he's talking about the Electoral College. How ridiculous, Kaylee. And then you come here and you ask whether he likes his own daughter.
You're doing a disservice to your own cause. Because by throwing out farce charges of anti-Semitism, you're neglecting the times where there actually is hate that we need to put a spotlight on.
You know what? And why don't you respond to it instead of responding to the Electoral College?
So, I mean, look, you can see that's what hysteria looks like. I thought CNN actually coped very well with that guest who I thought was all over the fucking place, frankly. I mean, you watched that clip, Sam. You know, did he seem like a rational person making rational points?
Yeah, it seemed a bit out of control to me, man.
Well, and this is the key thing. I understand it, right? Because obviously the prospect of anti-Semitism being on the rise, Jewish people being at risk in America, it is horrible. It is horrifying. Obviously, if, it was real, okay? And here's the thing. I've always said that this uptick in hate crimes, I see all these statistics given out by the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL, and the evidentiary boundary seems to have been greatly lowered to what constitutes a reported hate crime. Like if it's a tweet, I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it for me. It should be actual reported crimes to the police. That should be the standard, in my opinion, because they're the ones that obviously there's enough evidence for the police to investigate and make a determination about whether or not a hate crime occurred. That's how it should be. But increasingly, it's not like that, and everybody's using all these wishy-washy statistics. Well, we already revealed on a previous show how it was a journalist from The Intercept that had been making bomb threats to Jewish centers all over America trying to frame his ex-girlfriend, like insanity. But again, it was a leftist. Well, now there was a number of incidents that came out in the press this week that also point to these more fake anti-Semitism. Let's bring up the first one. This is a man who was found. It was initially reported on ABC that he was a Jewish man who had been spray painting swastikas on his own home. And they reported it, and I was like, well, there you go. That's classic didn't happen right there. But it's a double didn't happen because the motherfucker isn't even Jewish. He was lying about that. So is it a hate crime now? I don't know. It's like Inception. So he did it to himself, saying he was Jewish, reported it as a hate crime. Then it turns out he's not Jewish, right? And this is why he's not Jewish. He tried to become Jewish, and he got rejected. He got turned down at 2 congregations. He wanted to convert to Judaism. And they said, nah, it's all right, mate. We got enough. We got enough at the moment. We're not looking for anyone new in the Jewish community. We're fine. We got enough Jews. We don't want you in. All right. Like just trying to frame it nicely. So he's not even Jewish. So in a bid to identify with the marginalized group that he wants to belong to, he perpetrated a hate crime against himself for a group he's not even in. This is mental levels of didn't happen. And now, if you see on that photo, he's got 2 black eyes. He looks like me when I wake up in the morning. He's saying he got those off the coppers that arrested him. Well, I'm not so sure. I think if you're capable of faking a hate crime and saying you're Jewish when you're not, you're probably capable of smacking your head off a wall and saying the police beat me up. I'm just putting that out there. If the police did beat him up, that's horrifying as well, against police brutality. But I think this guy's credibility might be just a little bit shot at this point. So that was it didn't happen. Next up, more bomb threats. And you can bring up this image here. This was a nice collation that I found over on 4chan, I think it was. Where it was when all these Jewish bomb threats were happening, Trump said, I don't know who's doing them, implying that it could be some sort of hoax. And you can see the headlines here. This is insane. This is an anti-Jewish conspiracy. This is white supremacy. Jewish groups said they were disturbed by Trump's false flag suggestion. Keep in mind, he wasn't saying Jewish people were doing it. This is specifically to the desecration of Jewish graves and all the Jewish bomb threats and whatnot that were occurring. He wasn't saying the Jews were doing it. He was just saying it was a hoax. He was saying maybe white supremacists aren't doing it because we have seen hate crimes. How many hoax hate crimes have we seen from the back end of 2016 to 2017? We try and pick up on them all, but honestly, it gets hard, right? And I'm not saying there's not real hate crimes, but this is a new wave. This is a new phenomenon that we got to be mindful of, that there are people out there faking hate crimes, and that's terrible. That makes the world look like a far more unsafe place than it actually is. I do not believe that hate is on the rise in Trump's America. And Trump was trying to, as he always does, clumsily articulate that. And he was right, by the way, to say we don't know who's done it. The assumption is a white supremacist group has done it, but we didn't know. So then it turned out that for the latest wave of bomb threats, not the ones that the liberal journalists from The Intercept did, but another bunch, it was a 19-year-old Jewish man who was the primary suspect in a bunch of bomb threats targeting Jewish community centers and other institutions in the U.S. So they're doing the investigation right now. They don't know how many he's done, but they know he's been involved in more than 100. Sorry, that there's been 150 bomb threats in Jewish community centers and day schools across 37 states since January the 9th. And they're saying this guy is involved with probably most of those. And obviously, that potentially includes the vandalism on Jewish cemeteries. So that's going to be investigated now as being part of this group. You can see this guy here was hiding his face when he was brought to court in Israel, part again of those relationships that US and Israel has at work to bring somebody that's committing hate crimes against his own people to justice. But again, here's the thing, Sam. Why don't these stories blow up as much as I think they should? Here's the thing. White supremacist, racist asshole goes and does white supremacist asshole things. Right? And we have seen some instances of hate crime, for balance. We had that double shooting where the guy is alleged to have said something racist when he shot those two gentlemen. So we have seen hate crimes. But I almost think it's like a bigger story if somebody is doing it to their own group, to their own people, or creating hoaxes. I feel that should blow up more in the news just because of how fucking weird and bizarre it is. But it never does. That's never the big story. This is now two people that have been arrested that pretty much account for all the bomb threats made towards Jewish people this year. Just two dudes. One of them Jewish, the other of them liberal and a journalist. Why isn't that the whole, holy shit, man, maybe we need to have a reappraisal about how dangerous things actually are. Because this is Trump derangement syndrome in action, It really is. The idea that everyone's become emboldened to go out there and commit these hate crimes. Seems the only people who've been emboldened to do it are the fucking people that want to spread this disinformation and hoax bullshit. I can't, and again, this should be front page news of every newspaper. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry, Jewish community. We found the people who've been doing it. You don't need to worry about those white supremacists. It's garbage. It's nonsense. They're still out there. It might not be something we ever defeat. But it turns out it's not as bad as you thought. You don't need to worry as much. Because people are afraid. And they're afraid because the papers and the media pick up one side of the story, the hysterical part, bomb threats are on the increase. Turns out a Jewish guy did it. Fuck, that kills our narrative stone dead. So we're not going to report that part. Or if we do, it's in a tiny little column tucked away down here. That's how they do it. Because they want to keep you afraid. It's the culture of fear. So, didn't happen. Now, we fucked up, Sam. A few shows ago, we were going to talk about He Will Not Divide Us, and we just totally forgot. Yeah. Well, here's the good news. It happened again. So now we can talk about it. So just for those who don't know, Shia LaBeouf, who is, an increasingly ridiculous figure, I think. He starred in some terrible movies. I don't necessarily hate the guy, even if he starred in some terrible movies. He starred in some okay movies too. Definitely don't have anything against him as an actor. But, and I actually like the fact, a lot of people were like, oh, he's a violent thug and stuff, because there was a few videos of him getting into bar fights and that kind of thing. I don't mind I think it'd be hypocritical of me to condemn somebody for being a bit rough and ready. I like that, not saying violence is right, but he's just a regular guy. He goes out, he drinks. Sometimes he has too much, and if someone gets in his face, he reacts. That's all right. He's a human, so I'm okay. I'm okay with it. But again, Trump gets elected, guy loses his mind. And it's hard to say whether he was doing this for attention because, let's be honest, how many more Transformers movies can you do before you just want to blow your fucking brains out? Because they are fucking hot garbage. Or, does he really believe that, there's a need to stand up to Trump and a flag is the way to do it? I don't know. So anyway, he created this thing called He Will Not Divide Us. Initially, it was an art installation that you could go to, and it was a camera. And you could go down there and chant, He Will Not Divide Us, like you're in some fucking weird cult. And people would come out and say, He Will Not Divide Us, tell stories. It was meant to show that there was unity there. But of course, it was so ridiculous. And the fact that it was open-ended meant that people from 4chan and other groups, were going down there and just trolling, right? Just trolling it. And, we saw footage of Shia LaBeouf screaming, "He will not divide us," into his face while, like, forcing his head into someone's personal space. And sure, the person that did drop the old 1488, right? So, Shia LaBeouf, I believe, is from Jewish heritage. So probably a deeply offensive thing to say. So I can forgive his reaction. Although, again, it makes you look a bit ridiculous if you're trying to make out, that we're not going to be divided. Oh, someone said something, I'm going to fight them, So you probably need to be a little bit more zen, right? Like, if you want to make that message resonate. And in the end, because Shia LaBeouf kept getting in everyone's face, it was deemed a danger, and the whole thing was shut down. So then he changed it to being a flag. And he put a flag in the middle of nowhere, and he said, good luck stopping this one. And they had a live stream, 24/7 of a flag saying, "He will not divide us." And that was that. Well, the key thing here is he has been very vocal about 4chan and the trolls, or rather the "He will not divide us" team have been. And you don't ever fuck with 4chan. Like, it's one of the first lessons of the internet, Sam. Out of all the groups you're going to fuck with on the internet, never 4chan.
Yeah.
Respect their power, mate. Because when they put their mind to shit, they're going to get it done. And that's been proven a million times. And I almost admire it. I think a lot of these people should have, like, high-powered jobs, They should be working with intelligence services. We saw from these Vault 7 CIA leaks, they're like, here is a guide to fucking ASCII, figures. What do they mean? Let's translate them. I don't think they've got anyone deep inside the fucking 4chan group yet. I think that's quite an impenetrable bunch. But they've certainly got talent, as demonstrated by the "He will not divide us" flag issue. So they looked up, they followed the live feed, and they noticed there were planes in the background flying over this flag. And they were like, hang on a minute. We can chart this. So if you want to bring up the Heat Street report, you can see they actually charted flight paths. So initially they had to use astronomy, right, which was to get the direction of the camera and everything. So they did that. Then they started charting flight paths, right? They used latitude and longitude to track where it would be. You can see here, they're talking about the faint star visible next to the flag is Polaris. It has to be, since the other star is rotating around it in a perfect circle. This means the flagpole is nearly due north of the camera, and the camera is facing a compass heading of about 5 to 7 degrees. This is fucking insanity. This is ridiculous. Levels of attention to detail. So, lo and behold, they figured it out. And there was a moment where they sent people to drive around the suspected area, honking the horn while listening to the live stream. So, meep, 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 and they're listening, right? Okay, yeah. Oh, he's getting closer, you're getting closer. They did this insane, coordinated operation. And guess what they did? They got it. They took down the flag, which was in a field in the middle of fucking nowhere. And then they replaced it with a Donald Trump Make America Great Again hat. And I believe a Pepe the Frog t-shirt as well. And then they went home and they proudly displayed the "He will not divide us" flag. Now, if I remember rightly, and I'm not too sure if this is true, so let me just check. Because there were reports, people were watching like the satellites, and they were saying that Shia LaBeouf was even walking around the fields. And there was photos of it put up in 4chan that he was like walking around these fields in Tennessee to see if there was any more trolls about. It drove him wild. This is a Hollywood actor. But he wasn't to be perturbed. Because vanity's a big deal. So he decided to do it again, but this time with the help of a known art installation. And this was in Liverpool in the UK. So they announced it, that it's going to be moved to Liverpool, UK. It's going to be part of FACT, I think it's called, the Foundation for Art and Creative Technology in Liverpool. And it's like, they have cinematic things there and art things there. And it's a big deal for Liverpool. Because, I don't know if you know this, Liverpool's been a city of culture, for a while, which I won't lie, does surprise me a little bit. Been there, I think you got the Beatles and a few other things, but whatever. I like Liverpool. So it's okay by me, even though I think it's a little bit oversold as a city of culture. I mean, shit, I think they gave it to fucking Gateshead or Newcastle or something once, so, we're all's fair. But anyway, so this is a big deal. So they put this flagpole on a building in the heart of Liverpool. And obviously, as a result of that, Shire wanted people to go and see it. So the address was out there. Come and see the He Will Not Divide Us flag. I don't know what you think you're going to get. I don't know what's so good about a fucking flag. But lo and behold, the address was up there, and 4chan said, okay, all right then. We're going to do it. We're going to go get this flag. So they started an operation to look over the buildings of Liverpool using Google Maps and any other tools to them, so how to find out how they could get to the flag. And in a dangerous, super dangerous operation, 2 Anons went across the roofs, and there's photo evidence of it, dressed like I dressed when I went out to cover the Birmingham riots, with the old scarf around the face. They went across these rickety, dangerous roofs to get to the flag. And they got it. They got it again. And took it down. And there was a fucking police chase. The police got involved and started chasing the guy with the flag. And he, so far, I think he evaded capture. So, as a result of this daring rooftop raid, turns out that FACT said, yeah, this is fucking dangerous. We can't have this flag here. So it was removed from the gallery. And then the He Will Not Divide Us Facebook page, which fair enough wasn't created by Shire, I believe it was created by a fan of the movement, said that they would be closing the page. And it looked like it was a victory for trolls. So that is the end of He Will Not Divide Us. It is one of the greatest stories of our time. Because it turns out, divided. You were divided all along. So, awesome fucking stuff. 4chan strike again. I think eventually when all this political insanity ends, we're going to look back and we're going to look at some of the things 4chan realistically achieved. And we're going to say, actually, as a site, they did play their part in history. They did play a significant part in history and folklore, and they deserve their respect. Right. You still with me, Sam?
Yeah. No, I just reached for my mate. Don't worry about it. I couldn't find this.
Good. Making sure you haven't fallen asleep. I think you're being stunning and brave.
Nice.
Good. Right. Good. I told you, mate. It's hard, It's hard to do these things.
It is definitely a skill, mate, to do shows when you're racked.
Yeah, I told you.
I thought it'd be way easier than this.
No, it's tough, mate. You've got to run that gauntlet. You've got to run that fucking gauntlet, brother. I like to say, I acquired this skill. You have this part of your brain, and it's just like a really good autopilot. But it's not like an autopilot in terms of like walking. It's the talking part you really need to do. How to not slur, how to stay engaged, how to make it look like you're not just a raging torrent of fucking drunkenness, just a veneer of sobriety. It's awesome. But it is an acquired skill, it is an acquired talent. So, okay, so look, let's move into the old again area of fucking what's racist and what isn't. Because the boundaries on what's racist seems to be absurd. So there was this report in Fox News. Now, you know about Blue Lives Matter, right? Mm-hmm. Right, so Blue Lives Matter was brought out at the height of, the Black Lives Matter movement, just to say, look, we don't agree with anybody getting killed by the police, but, police get killed too, and as we saw with that sniper that took down, some police officers during a protest, they wanted to come out and say the majority of police go out there and they are to stop criminals running amok and they're to protect the citizenry of this country. And we believe Blue Lives Matter. Now, first of all, I don't know how anybody could get offended by that, just as a notion, just as a statement, because I condemn police brutality, and I've done many shows, and again, there's a history of it in my channel, where I say any police officer that operates outside the law and beats a civilian or abuses their power or kills an unarmed man, they need to be tried under the law. And I think the law protects them, and I think it protects them too much. And this is the torch paper you keep stoking. This is why you keep having these riots. The riots are born out of frustration that they don't see justice being done. And I just mean justice. Some of these people, they don't even go to court. They don't even get charged. They get we'll send them on a sensitivity training. We'll send them for re-education on how to use a firearm. And every time you do that, it'll start with a sigh and then a groan, and it builds and the anger builds. And then by the 50th time you see a police officer do what should be considered an unsafe shooting on an unarmed man, or they get caught planting evidence or something else. Every time you don't see that individual be prosecuted, or you see the wall of silence, people get angry about it. And then they think, shit, we got to go out and we got to fucking riot. It's the only way we're going to get stuff changed. If the law just treated police officers with the same level of scrutiny that it treats the citizens, I think everybody would be happy. You'd see a lot less of this shit. That's my view. But that still doesn't detract from the fact that I appreciate all of our officers that are out there protecting us from the bad guys. That's the intent. That's what they're trying to do, ostensibly. So, Blue Lives Matter as a concept shouldn't really offend anybody. I don't think anybody could be so anti-police. Even in Fuck the Police by NWA, they're talking about a specific type of police officer in a specific type of neighborhood. That did, and we all know that police force at that particular time was fucking outrageous. So, in general, majority of police probably trying to do the good thing. Okay? So Blue Lives Matter shouldn't offend you. Second of all, I don't know if you know this, nobody's fucking blue. Ain't no blue people. Except the ones you see when you're taking ayahuasca and smoking DMT. Oh, Mr. Meeseeks, that's a good point. But in general, no blue people. So it's not like White Lives Matter, which is implied, I can understand why people might get offended by that. If you're a Black Lives Matter activist. I think the whole thing's stupid. I don't understand people getting offended by All Lives Matter. I don't understand that. I think that's silly. All life is sacred in that sense. But Blue Lives Matter isn't talking about the color of a skin. It's talking about a uniform. That's it. So it shouldn't bother you at all. Nobody is sticking up for the Smurfs. That's not what this is. So Blue Lives Matter, shouldn't ever be deemed racist. But it turns out it is. And this is a woman in Florida has been told that she has to take down a flag that she's been flying there for several years to show her support for police officers with Blue Lives Matter on it. And she said, why have I got to take this down? She was issued, with a request to remove it. And she said, why have I got to take this down? And they said that they've had a number of complaints that it was racist, offensive, and anti-Black Lives Matter. I don't know why the Black Lives Matter movement suddenly gets special protections under law, but apparently it does. And I don't see why any kind of protest movement should have any protection that another protest movement would get, whatever. And obviously the woman doesn't want to be identified. So she's now had to submit a request for permission to fly the flag, and it got denied. It got denied. So they're now looking at what can be flown, what flags are allowed. And they said only American flags and military-themed flags are allowed to be flown in that neighborhood. That's the rule that they're now going to enforce. So again, you know what's going to happen? There'll be a bunch of people out there that have offshoot political flags out there. There'll be Black Lives Matter activists having, Black Lives Matter in their window. And this is going to open the floodgates for mass censorship and removal of fucking flags on your own property in America. This is crazy. How can Blue Lives Matter be racist? I don't understand. But, nothing should surprise me. Check this out. This was the NDP being accused of cultural appropriation. So this is the New Democratic Party, I believe. They put this out on their Twitter. This is by Nikki Ashton. And they're talking about their politics, right? And you can see, like Beyonce says, to the left, it's time for an unapologetic left turn for the NDP, for social, racial, environment, and economic justice. To the left, Nikki Ashton, 2017. So obviously, everybody knows the Beyonce song. Everyone's heard it, to the left. And, leftist politics, right? You can understand synergistically why this makes sense, and it's catchy, But apparently, it's actually racist because it's cultural appropriation. So you can see on Twitter, a Black Lives Matter Twitter account said to Nikki Ashton, appropriating black culture is not intersectional feminism. Please delete your To the Left Facebook post and address the issue. Nikki Ashton, see, what I would have said here is like, no, it's okay. Actually, I'm not going to remove it because cultural appropriation isn't real. It's just not real. Sorry about that. Hope you're not too upset, but it's not real. So I'm not going to. But no, this is the problem. This is why the far left will always eat itself, because they try and appease everybody. And then eventually it's impossible, because that's just inherently impossible to do. You're going to fuck up somewhere. And then all of the people that are just there for the fucking piranha-like feeding frenzy, you're fucking up, motherfuckers, they're going to take your shit away. So, Nikki Ashton, we removed it. Wasn't our intention to appropriate. We're committed to a platform of racial justice and would appreciate your feedback. Come on, man. And then look, here it is. NDP leadership, the report. Candidate apologizes for Beyonce quote. Nikki Ashton used a few words from the recording artist's song, Irreplaceable, with a photo to make a point about the direction in which her party should move. But apparently, cultural appropriation. A huge apology in this. Like a ridiculous level of apology for the alleged crime, right? Ashton then went on to say, I will not tolerate racism or hate speech directed at BLM or any community. Showing respect is what building a movement is all about. Well, yeah, but I mean, you've set the stall out now. You're saying cultural appropriation's a thing. You're going to get fucking wrecked. So, and I don't understand it. And there's actually, at the time that we're recording this, there's more controversy, of course, over this imaginary thing of cultural appropriation. And you'll have to help me with this one, Sam, because it's something young, and it's about, you've got to be down with the kids to understand this, and I'm not down with the kids. I'm old. Fuck yeah. So who? Right, Jack Johnson. Do you know Jack Johnson?
I think he's a songwriter.
There you go. Right. Well, have a look at this. Right. This is a trending hashtag right now on Twitter as we're recording this. And I've been trying to keep up with it. But obviously, I've got loads of other stuff going on and it's just zinging at me. I'm trying to learn Japanese pronunciations for Street Fighter and everything else. But the Jack Johnson is over party. And apparently, the reason Jack Johnson is over is they're talking about how he had braids in his hair. So he had braids in his hair. And he's white. And even though history has taught me that, not one race has a claim on braiding hair, because the Celts used to do it. The pre-Celts also used to do it. Vikings have done it. Same with dreadlocks, by the way. Apparently, it's racist. And Jack Johnson is over. He's over because he braided his hair. So, there you go. So, cultural appropriation. People are saying that it's real. It's not real. What difference does it make that he braids his hair? What difference does it make if you take a song from the song lyrics from a black songwriter and you use them and you're white and therefore you can't do that? That's insane to me. That inherently, the second example, stops cultural appreciation. I won't even get drawn into the hair thing. It's absurd. But this is the direction we're going in. Cultural appropriation is a real thing. And it's not. Definitely isn't. But people are saying it is. Another crazy thing that I saw in the news, which just blew my fucking mind, was this. And this definitely needs to get talked about. So this was Riz Ahmed. And he's an actor and a rapper. And he was in the film Four Lions, if anyone's seen that, the Chris Morris movie. He's also in Rogue One. And he did an interview a while ago where he said one of the most ridiculous things I think I've ever heard. I mean, this is right up there. So he was talking about diversity, and Channel 4 do this which is a TV station in the UK. They do this diversity kind of discussion night, and they do it in Parliament. And Riz Ahmed was speaking there. And he said here that if you don't have diversity on television, you drive them into the arms of ISIS. So his thought process, which is insane to me because I thought Four Lions was a comedy with an incredibly horrifying and poignant ending. And I thought, having been part of that project, he would kind of understand the nuance as to what actually does drive people to extremism and how horrible it is and how they prey on particular people. In no way can it ever be said that there's a guy at home, he's watching TV, and he's like, shit, you know what? There's just not enough Muslims in this TV show. Fuck it. Time for jihad. I'm out. All that other stuff. The years of foreign policy, that was fine. The fake wars, that was fine. Arming extremist groups and propping up the Taliban, that was fine. But if my motherfucking TV stars don't look like me, fucking had. Am I supposed to believe that people think this way? And the quote's absurd. If we fail to represent, we are in danger of losing people to extremism. In the mind of the ISIS recruit, he's the next James Bond, right? Nah. definitely isn't. Have you seen some of those ISIS propaganda videos? They're cut like action movies. Where is the counter narrative? Where are we telling these kids they can be heroes in our stories that they valued? Again, I don't know if he's missing something here. Bit of a difference between an ISIS propaganda video. I've seen them. ISIS propaganda videos typically do have an actual murder in them. It's not acting. Someone's head really does get cut off. I think the most recent one that I came across, and it's not like I make a habit of watching these things. I do want to stress that. I'm not just sat in my room, watching ISIS propaganda video today, I think. But, when they come up for the purposes of research, when they find their way onto YouTube before they're taken down, rubbernecking out of curiosity. But in the last one I saw, I don't know if you saw this one, but it was the one with it was either a kid or a teenager, but with dwarfism.
No, I think I saw that one.
And they shot a dude in the head.
No.
And again, it was real. It was a real thing. And the kid was there, and horrifying because, either I'd say it was either a child or a developmentally disabled teenager. It's very hard to determine the age. And obviously that's horrific because this is a extremist group now utilizing, children who don't know better, to be involved in these things and to show like, look at this brave young little ISIS fighter, let's start them young, get your children indoctrinated. Really awful, insidious recruitment video. Don't think you can really compare that to, hey, why not become an actor and star in a Star Wars movie? They're two very different things, right? But apparently not in the mind of Riz Ahmed. This is absurd. This is absurdity taken to a new level. I'm all for diversity, right? But the idea that if there's not more black actors or Arab actors or whatever group you feel is underrepresented, the idea that drives people to actually want to commit murder, you got a word for people that feel that way. They're mentally unstable. They are, they're lunatics. And it's got nothing to do with, you're not going to limit their lunacy by this sort of thing. So, yeah, ridiculous. Ridiculous quote. Right, what else have we got here? There was journalistic rock bottom. We completely missed out the Oscars, which, of course, was the big talking point, was all about that. No, they got the wrong film. Right. This is how you know when you've hit journalistic rock bottom. I mean, absolute journalistic rock bottom. So this is obviously back from last month. But I've kept it on the list to discuss for like the longest period of time. I don't know why everyone's talking about this, Sam. I don't know where this idea that we're living in a computer simulation really sort of took up so much popularity. Because everybody talks about it. Oh, yeah, the simulation. Haha, Trump won the election. We're in a simulation.
Anders told me we're in one, I believe, then.
Yeah, Anders thinks we're in a simulation. To be fair, if I was Anders, I might want to believe I was in a simulation. Edgy joke. Love Anders, really. But it's madness. Because we're not living in a computer simulation, are we? It's a silly thing to think about. It's, it was silly when The Matrix did it. It was silly when other sci-fi films and books have explored it. My money would be that we're not. Just going to put that out there. I mean, if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter because it's a simulation. I was pre-programmed to be wrong and publicly state I was wrong. So I feel pretty safe with this one. Can't really lose. But this is, did the Oscars just prove that we are living in a computer simulation? By Adam Gopnik. How do you get out of bed and think, right, got a deadline, got to get this in, right? What am I going to write? I've got to do some, is it Oscars coverage? Okay. Look at what he puts into this article. So he talks about how it was bizarre because, and then he went, it was just like election night. All right. Well, it wasn't because election night was a democratic election that was, where people got to vote. And thanks to the electoral college, Donald Trump won fair and square. And that was that. Nothing is similar. There was no, nobody wrote the wrong thing in the envelope. You didn't have fucking Steve Harvey. And it's Donald Trump. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I meant Hillary Clinton. That wasn't, that didn't happen, right? But look what he starts talking about here, second paragraph. This wasn't just a minor kerfuffle, them getting the wrong movie. This was a major malfunction. Trump cannot be president. Forgetting all the bounds of ideology, no one vaguely like him has ever existed in the long list of presidents, good, bad, and indifferent. No one remotely as oafish or as crude or as obviously unfit. I mean, this guy must have missed George Bush's presidency, where this guy, if you think Donald Trump saying bigly when he didn't say bigly, but if you think Donald Trump saying bigly is ridiculous, what about misunderestimated? What about, the guy, fool me, won't get fooled again. All of the fucking ridiculous things he did. What about the time when he was talking about how he was committed to capturing the people who committed 9/11 and then turned around and went, now watch this, drive. And, you honestly don't think George W. Bush was oafish in any way, shape, or form? Okay, all right, good. I guess the simulated part of your reality completely just forgets that happened. People don't say grab him by the pussy and get elected president. Can't happen. You can dodge the draft and do coke, though. Evidently. In the same way, while there have been Oscar controversies before, never before has there been an occasion when the entirely wrong movie was given the award. The speech is delivered and then another movie put in its place. That doesn't happen ever. Right? Okay, cool. So on a long enough time scale, it's probably always going to happen, right? And so both of these bizarre events put one in mind of a simple but arresting thesis. We are living in the Matrix, and something has gone wrong with the controllers. Let me tell you, if you're a journalist, okay, and this is the best you can do, like to turn in some copy, I watched the Oscars last night, and you know what? We're living in the Matrix. If that is the best you can do, your editor has to fire you. I mean, seriously, this is garbage. This guy's been at the New Yorker since '86. He's burned out. He's just given the fuck up. This is what journalistic rock bottom looks like. It's, it's not even clever. The whole article's not even funny or clever or anything. And he ends it, perhaps let us pray it's just that someone forgot to plug in an important part of the machine. And when they spot the problem, they'll plug us back into the usual psychological circuits. Let's hope for a sudden mysterious surge of energy and then normalcy again. But don't count on it. Expect the worst. Oh, wait, it's already happened. So we now live in a simulation that is simulating, according to this guy, the worst part of human history. That's Adam Gopnik, who probably, never had the joy of living through the bubonic plague. Right, never had to deal with, World War II and the Holocaust. It's 2017, the simulated year that is the lowest point of human history. Not all the other shit, where we all go, holy fucking shit, that was heavy. That was heavy. None of that. Not the genocide of Native Americans. Not that. That was all right. That was all right compared to Trump and this Oscars thing. That's fucking insane. That is one of the most whack pieces of fucking editorial I've ever seen. Then there was this. I thought this was interesting. Journalists with zero self-awareness are always good. So I'll give you this. This was obviously in The Guardian. I mean, their op-ed section is a fucking train wreck at the best of times. But this is another journalist talking about reality. And I thought this might be an interesting piece. The headline leapt out at me, the title leapt out at me, and I thought this might be good, right? So it said, our greatest peril is screening ourselves off from reality by George Monbiot. And I thought, this is right. What this guy's going to be saying is, because I saw the screenshot of PewDiePie and everything, he's going to be saying, we're calling everybody racists and fascists and all of this, and none of that's real. It's just bullshit. We're just doing it to placate some sort of ideological notion in our brains, and we know it's a lie and we know it's fake, but we lead shitty, boring lives, and we can't go out and we can't really stand for anything. There's no war to fight. There's nothing we can do, but we can virtue signal on social media and bitch and whine about fictitious boogeymen. Because that title would line up with that sentiment. So I thought this was going to be great. I thought this was going to be a roller coaster. I thought, wow, the Guardian's going to write something sensible. Then I saw the tagline underneath. Immersed in life online like the followers of 4chan or PewDiePie, we start to imagine that nothing matters. Even racism, misogyny, and resurgent fascism. And I picarded. I did the double face palm like, oh no. Oh no. He's talking about reality and then he is inciting things that aren't true and immeasurably not true. So he goes on about it, and you can see he ticks all the usual boxes. You can see he talks about Pepe the Frog, right? I'll read you his description of 4chan, which couldn't be further from the truth. As someone that's dipped his toe in and out of 4chan down the years, this is complete garbage. Is 4chan a clever invention from a group of fascist conspirators? No. It evolved organically among young, often jobless, often sexually frustrated men who sought refuge in a world of their own making and lived there through almost every waking hour. As their online world of ironic self-reflection expanded, their contact with the real world shrank until nothing was serious, except their hatred of women. Depicting their mascot, Pepe the Frog, in a Nazi uniform, giving the finger to liberals and people of colour, is just a joke. And so was the rise on their shoulders of Milo Yiannopoulos. So was the election of Trump. Well, none of these things are real either. Milo Yiannopoulos didn't rise to fame off the back of 4chan. What are you talking about? I mean, your chronology's all fucked up there, my friend. And putting Pepe the Frog in a Nazi uniform, I've seen Hello Kitty and everything else, right? Fucking Mickey Mouse. So what are we trying to say here? You've got nothing to say. Then he goes on. My second reason for writing this column is that the same issues surround another online sensation, the output of the YouTube vlogger PewDiePie. His absurdist babble, adored by his 53 million, mostly teenage followers, evolved into giving a Nazi salute. That didn't happen. Didn't give a Nazi salute. The Wall Street Journal actually went through and clipped a part of him. I don't even want to do it because it'll happen to me. They're the times we live in when you've got losers that do this. So he didn't give a Nazi salute. In certain clips of Hitler speeches, I mean, that's been used for comedic effect. Mel Brooks has done that. If you're telling me that episode of Pokemon with all the fucking Squirtles listening to that big fucking Bulbasaur, I think it is. If you're telling me that doesn't have overtones of Nuremberg quite deliberately, you're out of your motherfucking mind. It's not. This isn't an uncommon thing. Images of swastikas in his shows, again contextually for humor, and then paying two Indian men to hold up a sign reading "Death to all Jews" and pondering whether Leslie Jones should be compared to Harambe the gorilla. Didn't do that. That was a machine learning program that did that. You want to be angry with all the people who actually did it, not PewDiePie using a piece of machine learning on a video that actually did compare Leslie Jones to Harambe. Machine learning, all right? That's why it's flawed. So, complete lies. So again, I'll go back to the title. Our greatest peril, screening ourselves off from reality. This guy completely living in a fucking reality of his own creation, even to the point where he cannot be bothered to watch the videos himself and make a factual determination about what happened. Goes on to say, breaking down the barriers of acceptability through humor is now a deliberate tactic of the far right. How long have I been saying this? That the liberals they come for humor and they come for comedians because they cannot control what comes out their mouth, and comedy gives you a pass because all good comedians operate under the premise either it's all okay or none of it's okay. You can't get upset by it. You've got to allow comedy. It's the last bastion of free expression. And as a result of that, extreme leftists go after it with a frothing fervor, with a passion. It's why comedians will not go to college campuses. It's why comedians, they disappear for years at a time. They only play comedy clubs. The only environment, really, where you can be sure that anybody who comes in and acts like a fucking jerk and cries about stuff, they're just going to get asked to leave by security or whatever. How many comedians have we seen in the last, 2 years get pilloried by the media, for making just jokes, for just saying jokes? Conversely, if somebody that stands for the right kind of politics makes an offensive joke, we quickly rush to try and excuse it. Or rather, the media does. So, think about that. Humor is now a tactic of the far right. These goddamn Nazis with their jokes. So there you go. And he ends by saying this, which is just as absolute lunacy. This is more fundamental even than filter bubbles. This is about what it is to be human, what it is to lose that essential element of our existence, our contact with the real world. The political, social, environmental consequences are currently beyond reckoning. This is how you lose touch with the real world, okay? First thing, words. Words do not hurt. Words are not violence. Ideas are either good ideas or bad ideas. If bad ideas are taken up, yes, they can become damaging. But if there are enough sensible, intelligent people with good ideas to push back against the bad ideas, they will never be taken up. This is the world of language. Comedy, jokes cannot be harmful. And yet here you are writing an article about saying how we shouldn't become screened off from reality. That's reality. Whether you want to accept it or not, that's the reality. They're just words. You're the people crying about it. You're the people shielding yourself away from that. You're the people pushing back and trying to limit what people can do and say and what they can think because you don't like it. And this is the new argument that I see getting pushed a lot as well, that how can you have a debate with the other side if you're not willing to accept universal truth, to accept facts? Well, multiple facts get disputed, facts with no evidence get disputed all the time. And what we do is we come to a consensus, and we do that through discussion. So the idea that you censor people and tell them, don't say this, don't do that, it's not helping. Not helping move things forward. Right, let me check the time here, Sam, because I'm probably lullabying you asleep. Okay, so we'll end with a few funny bits, because that's obviously what we like to do. I didn't know what this was actually about. This is one of the most bizarre fucking headlines. Oh, hang on. Actually, no, that's not the thing. Yep. Let me start again. I'll start that bit again since we're editing. Right. Okay. Cool. And then finally, in madness, in the spiral of depravity that I think we're getting locked into, cannibalism. Cannibalism, right? Like, a bit of a taboo, eating human flesh. Not really cool. I'm not really into that. Don't want to ever have to do that. Not saying I wouldn't, mate.
Yeah, I'm not down to it.
Yeah, if we were trapped in... If we were on a desert island and some cunt was already dead and it was, that or I am. Yeah. Then I'm probably having a bit of him, I'm, not going to enjoy it. Probably going to haunt me for the rest of my life. But, like them motherfuckers in that film Alive that crashed in that plane.
Wouldn't even haunt me, mate. If I'm living, unlucky. What's the bad part about it? I chose not death. Like, what have I got to feel guilty about?
Well, yeah, you might be onto something there, but and definitely not eating. There's certain parts you got to eat. I'm not eating the genitals.
Why? As if you'd be picky. What if we starving to death? I say, look, Rich, there's no food, but I got a lovely knob here for you. Like, it's all that's left. We ate all the human meat, but I've got a lovely knob and balls beer you can have in a soup or some sort of stew. Like, and you'd be like, no, I don't want it.
No, I mean, you gotta try and keep your fundamental humanity. I'm not eating the brain.
You wouldn't eat the brain.
No, because it gives you that kuru, mate. Whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah. Straight fucking, like, made up fucking diseases coming from the brain.
It's just a real disease. You never heard of kuru?
No, what does it do?
Well, Google kuru now, right? Just type in kuru. K-U-R-U.
K-U-R-U.
It's like new variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It just turns your brain. It just fills it with holes and fucks you up.
Kuru is caused by the transmission of abnormally folded prion proteins, which leads to tremors and loss of coordination.
It's like how you would get mad cow disease.
Right, so you just start shaking out and your brain starts jumping out, basically.
Yeah, you literally just get holes in your brain.
Fucking hell. What, that's what you get from eating a brain?
Yeah, you can get it from eating an infected brain that has that type of prion in it. Now, not everyone. You see, here's the thing: not everyone has this type of prion. It's why certain people couldn't get BSE at the height of the mad cow disease scandal. Right? I know about this. I've read a lot about prions. So yeah, you have to have a certain type of prion to be affected. But obviously, if you eat an infected brain and you have that type of prion, the prions like interlink and you get this fucking thing, which they just call kuru. Right? Turns out, don't want that. So, I mean, I'll take going another day and hoping you die first over eating that brain. And I don't know if I'd get anything off the knob. The knob is preferable to the brain. Like, if the brain and the knob were left, and that was it, and I've got to have one, you can have the brain, mate. I'll have the knob. But just in general, the things that are off limits are brain and knob. I'm not eating either of them. Not eating that. I don't want to. If someone tells me to go eat a dick. If someone told me to go eat a dick, I don't want to get triggered.
I'd eat the fuck out of a knob, but if I was starving to death, I'd eat the fuck out of a dick. But I don't give a fuck. That's why I'd live, but I'd eat anything. Serve me brain, but I don't give a fuck.
You need counselling.
Give me that straight kuru, but at least I'm not starving to death.
You don't get dick kuru. You can't get dick kuru, so you're okay. You can eat all the knobs, Sam. But anyway, look. So here's the thing. I think we can agree it's a bit of a taboo, right? But I couldn't believe this article I saw in New Statesman. Makes me worry a little bit, right? Because the headline was, I ate human flesh and I don't regret it. Delicious pate from your local free-range mum. Yes, it is what you think it is. And this guy's talking about placenta pate.
Fucking hell.
Right, and it's mad because the whole article is just like a history of cannibalism and why it's bad, right? But also how it does go on. He talks about how certain cultures believe that it's better. It's better to, if you're a loved one. This was what they call it, ritualistic mortuary cannibalism. Let's say you die. Yeah. Well, I don't want the worms to eat you, mate. So
you eat me.
So I eat you instead. I protect you from that indignity.
I can see that. I'd rather my mates eat me than the fucking dirt, mate. At least you served a meal.
Yeah. But yeah, so this guy's talking about how he had placenta pate, and he ate it. And he describes it here like, just what the fuck is this? Like, richly brown and capped with clarified butter. It certainly looked the part. And tasted it too. It was delicious. Less emphatically flavoured than liver, perhaps, but with a familiar earthy sweetness common to all offal and the very faintest of ferrous aftertastes. Frankly, if it hadn't come topped with a generous seasoning of psychological unease, it could have been almost anything. Like, come on, mate. Draw the line.
No.
Draw the fuck. Can we draw the line now? Can we draw the line? Like, not everything has to be okay. Do you know what I mean?
I know, these creepos as well who eat after birth. Like, oh, it's fucking, it gives you all the fucking vitamins. Yeah, we got vitamins now, but we got fucking multivitamins pills. I'm going to eat you after birth, you fucking weirdos.
I was just going to say, like, there's some synatogen, like, in the cup there. Like,
I got a brock up here, but I'm going to eat you fucking placenta, you creepo cunt. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Who's doing that? That's those elitist liberal snobs, mate. They're out of control. They're out of control. I agree with you. I agree. We've got to shut them down. Shut it down.
Give them Brock and tell them to grow the fuck up.
Grow the fuck up. So there you go. So cannibalism now. It wouldn't surprise me if this leads to a spate of articles about, how cannibalism, and you shouldn't be prejudiced about it, and it's actually good and stuff. Because when one goes first, all the other like leftist publications all jump in and go, "Hey, we're cool as well. We do cannibalism." You saw that with like paedophilia is okay now. Well, yeah, we thought paedophilia was okay as well. Look, we're even paying a pedophile to interview them and tell us about how great they are. So you watch. There'll be a wave of cannibalism now on all the leftist outlets. So there we have it. So Sam, you survived.
Yeah,
you made it to the end.
There
Congratulations.
was a part of that show that I don't remember.
Yeah.
We'll have to edit that part out.
Yeah, with selective editing. If anyone wonders if there's a jump cut and it's a little bit shorter, you know why. You know what happened.
That was just where Sam forgot what was happening. Because I just looked in the Skype chat and it just says, Sam. I can't remember that being sent.
Yeah, there might be a part where you just didn't bring up any things. Nice. But we'll see.
Or maybe
you can go back.
Did.
Yeah, maybe you did it on autopilot. Who knows, mate? But you can go through and edit it all appropriately. But there you have it. So we still got the guests coming. I don't know when we're going to fit them in because obviously I go away now and I'm going to be working on Street Fighter and stuff like that. But I got a few videos pre-recorded and we're going to get them out and keep trying to stick to the video a day or, every other day rotation we've been keeping in. Harmful Opinions is in. Donut Operator is in. We're waiting on a few other big name guests. So lots to look forward to on the Richard Lewis Show. Obviously, definitely tune into E-League. It's going to be a blast. But until then, me and Sam will be taking a rest. We'll see if we can keep up our pace. We might not be able to for up to potentially 8 weeks. But thanks a lot for all the support. And, of course, we will see you on the next video. Peace.